everyone, it's Erica for Wow Embossing Powder. Today I'm doing my first video as the design team for 2020 and I'm quite excited. Let's dive right in. What I tend to do before I start a project is I pick out some products that I think I'm going to use, and it just kind of, it's like a starting point, but sometimes things kind of go another way. But anyway, I'm starting out here with embossing white embossing powder onto the male background from Neat Tangled. I really like the Opaque Bright White, super fine for all those fine little details. And I love watching embossing powder melt. I love it, it's just magic. So here, what I'm doing is I tend to use these sort of cheap cork boards to both save my fingers, and I find that it stops the paper from warping. It's just one of those things that I find anyway. A lot of the times you have to wait with the coloring part after heat embossing because the paper can warp really quite badly at times. But when I'm using these kind of cork mats underneath, I find that I don't have to do that very much. So here it is, it's ready to go. And while I had the stamp and my Wow embossing pad out, I thought, why not do another one? So I did one in Rose Glintz, and this is a lovely sort of deep rose gold embossing powder, and it melts beautifully. Unfortunately, you will notice in the middle that there is a little bit of stray powder because I have some doggies, and the doggies and the embossing pad plus stamping equals stray embossing powder, which I thought I could try to fix that, but I knew at this point that I would be able to cover it up with a sentiment of some sort. And moving on to little bits and pieces, I have used the Love Mail dies, and I've cut out lots of hearts in, these are actually from paint chips, like samples, to show what colors look like when you go to the hardware store. Then I've taken these little hearts and I've dabbed them quite generously onto the embossing pad. And then I've dipped them in white pearl regular embossing powder to give them a really lovely shine. And then I've just gone ahead and done the rest of the hearts. The little ones I was able to just pop straight into the jar, but the other ones I had to obviously sprinkle the powder on from outside. And I've sped this up because it's a bit of a process, but and then we are gonna melt these. Sadly, my camera wasn't focusing onto the heart that was melting, so this little bit is not super great, but you can see the magic of the powder melting, and it just adds that little extra something to your colored cardstock. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I love the shimmer that the wild pearl embossing powder gives to colored cardstock. And we're going to speed this process up a little bit as well. So once I had all my hearts ready, it was time to start thinking sentiments and what else was going to go on there. And because I wanted things to kind of, this is just the last one because I thought first and last little bit always has to be shown. Because I wanted to keep to a similar color scheme for my whole card, I picked out some Distress Oxide inks, and I actually picked out another one that was not in the lineup in the beginning of the video. But with Tattered Rose, Spun Sugar, Worn Lipstick, and Picked Raspberry, what I've done is I've colored in the little hearts on the background panel. Just randomly, there's no sort of order to this whatsoever. And as you can see, I have a little bit of ink in the lid. And this is something that is from my ink blending time. What I do is I dip the brush or tap the brush onto the ink pad, and then I tap off the excess onto the lid. And this is coming very handy now. Moving on to an actual saying sentiment, I stamped up You're Pretty from the You're Pretty stamp set from also This Is Neat Tangled. And I did do the first one. I filmed the whole process, but I managed to film that in slow motion. But what I've done is I've heat embossed it twice with clear embossing powder to make it really shiny. And then the little sentiment strips are all done in one of the 4 colors that I picked out. And on the Rose Glintz background, I used a candied apple and fired brick. Again, just randomly filling in the hearts to just bring in a little bit of color. And on red cardstock, I've heat embossed the exact same sentiments, but in white. So I've used Opaque Bright White Superfine again. And then onto the big hearts, I've also heat embossed You Are Loved and XOXOXO. And I did the same with the You're Pretty. So I stamped it first with candied apple, and then I heat embossed that with clear embossing powder on top, just to really make it shiny. And then I stamped it again. So both of these sentiments are double stamped, just to really sort of make them puffy. It's almost like puffy stickers. You can see it in the little video clip here now. And I just love that effect. And the fact that you can get that from heat embossing is just brilliant. Well, that is it for me for this very first video. I hope you've enjoyed this. And don't forget to check in onto the Wow Embossing YouTube channel for many, many more tutorials and wonderful videos. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up as well, please. Thank you. Bye.